room changes we have here. So, and then we're gonna talk to about 6:10, and then I'm gonna give you time to talk with each other. So, Alyssa, do you want to go ahead and get started?
Sure, I will go ahead and get started. My name is Alyssa McKinley. If you don't know who I am, I don't know, Tanya or Gina, if you're whoever's the host, if you can enable screen sharing, that would be great.
You should be good.
Okay, thank you. And I'm the program director for Joy International. I currently live in Virginia, in Northern Virginia, outside of DC area. So I'm from Colorado. That's my home. I've been working with Joy for, I think it's almost 8 years now, in the summer. So on and off, different roles and responsibilities, different levels of involvement along the way. But I am now the program director. So I'm going to be sharing with you guys about our programs and what we are doing with our work at Joy International this year, especially. So I'm going to pop into my presentation. All right, everyone can hopefully see that. Full screen. Okay, so we're going to get going into Joy International's programs for 2024. And this is so that you guys are educated and have a good resource for when you're sharing and talking about Joy International and what we do. This is hopefully giving you good tools to communicate what we do with our work at Joy International. So that's a big purpose of why we're here today. So feel free to ask questions along the way. Just jump in if you have a question, and then we'll also have time for questions at the end. But if you don't know, and just to reiterate, you've probably seen it before, but Joy International is dedicated to the prevention of child trafficking and to the freedom, healing, and empowerment of trafficked children, teens, and young adults worldwide. So those 4 words, prevention, freedom, healing, and empowerment, are our 4 core principles that we try to base our programming off of and base the decisions on what we're doing with our time and resources off of. And those are the areas that we try to make the most impact and focus in. Our vision is to see each captive set free from a life of slavery to experience the true joy of reaching their greatest potential in every area of life. So that is our vision. Once again, these are the 4 pillars that I just mentioned. These are the areas that we really try to focus on for our programming, and you'll hear these 4 words a lot, and these are the 4 words that we try to get inside of our volunteers as well, that these are the areas that we really care about and want to make an impact in. So just to highlight them a little bit and to explain what these words mean to us a little bit more, prevention, how we see prevention is that demand, poverty, and a lack of education are 3 of the driving forces behind the exploitation of children around the world, or the exploitation of people. So prevention covers a couple different components. It covers the demand aspect, people who are buying trafficking victims. They're part of the problem. And so if we can actually reach people who would be a purchaser beforehand, and if we can reduce demand, that's a form of prevention. Another form of prevention is reaching those who are most vulnerable for exploitation and trafficking, and those who are experiencing extreme poverty are some of the most vulnerable and at-risk persons for being trafficked. And then finally, a lack of education as well is a huge driving force behind exploitation and trafficking. So we strive to educate people from all walks of life about human trafficking, as well as provide education, food, clothing, and emergency aid to help ease the burden of poverty on families around the world. And all of those areas help cover prevention. Second, freedom. We actively work with like-minded organizations in relevant geographic locations to bring freedom to women and children trafficked into the commercial sex trade. So for us, freedom programming includes helping to train anti-trafficking police teams to perform recovery operations, helping remove people out of active trafficking situations, funding those operations as that's needed, and then finally ensuring that any survivor is ending up in a safe aftercare facility. So we really believe strongly that there should never be an operation done if there's not a safe home that survivor can go to afterwards, because otherwise you're just perpetuating a cycle of exploitation and harm and trauma. If you remove someone from a trauma situation and there's no safe place for them to go, they're going to end up right back into another trauma situation. And so it's very important for us that our partners and those we choose to work with are always following a procedure of one, working with police for any type of recovery operations, that it's never just an individual or an organization doing it alone, but that two, that there is a very well vetted and safe facility after the fact that survivor is going to be able to go to. Number three, or this is a nice fact to remember, is that as a result of Joy's work, more than 3,000 children, teens, and young adults have been set free. Number three, healing. We are committed to seeing those freed from exploitation healed emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and physically. We believe healing from trauma is a journey, and though it may be difficult, it is possible to heal with the proper support. So we know from experience that healing from trafficking and healing from extreme trauma and exploitation, it is possible, but it takes a lot of systems in place to make it possible. It takes a safe facility. It takes staff who are trained in counseling and therapy. It takes that survivor having education support so they have a job opportunity after the fact. It takes family support. It takes a community around them, cheering them on, believing in them. It takes legal support and legal aid. So it has to come with the proper support, but it is possible. And we want to reiterate that. And we want to be just sharing that message of hope all the time, that even as extreme a horrible situation as trafficking, there is healing, there is hope, and there can be healing from it. And so we want to always keep that in mind. And number four, empowerment. We believe that adequately equipping, oh, sorry for the typo there, high-risk girls and women with the necessary education and training to support themselves can help end the cycles of poverty that drive trafficking. So when we empower those who are most at risk, mostly girls and young women in extreme poverty situations or other situations that put them at high risk, when we help empower them and strengthen them and support them, they're not going to be as susceptible to the lies of traffickers, to the schemes of traffickers, and to other exploitation factors. And so we want to empower them and allow them to live their best lives and pursue the things that they want to pursue without the pressure of poverty or other things. So we're going to talk about our programs this year, and I do just want to acknowledge that we've made some big changes. And so if you have heard about our programs before, there's going to be some shifts here, and we're really excited about those shifts. There's some new things happening, but with those new things, we've had to kind of cut out some old things. And we talked a lot about this as a staff and a board last year, making decisions on these programs and whether or not we were going to pursue them. And one thing that we talked about a lot is wanting to narrow our focus to go deeper in impact. And that's what we've ended up doing, is cutting out some things and saying no to some things so that we can say yes to a few things and go deep into those things and make a really big, deep, long-lasting impact in a few things instead of having a lot of different things with our hands in them. So you might see some things that you're like, wait, don't you do this? Don't you do that? And we may have used to do that, but we're actually trying to cut out some things. Now, maybe someday those things will come back in the future as Joy grows and we have more staff and we have more capacity to build in some of those programs. Maybe those things will come back in the future. But right now, we're trying to focus on these key areas that I'm about to share with you. So the first one, if my slide will go, is our prevention program in Uganda. And so this has not changed from last year. This is one thing that we believe in, is that the greatest rescues are those that never have to happen. So we would much, much rather prevent trafficking from happening rather than having to rescue someone out of trafficking. And I think every one of us in the room would say the same thing for our family members, for our children, whoever it might be that we love. We would always, always, always rather prevent a trauma, an exploitation, a trafficking, a harm. We'd always rather prevent it than have to walk them through healing later. And so we really believe in our prevention program in Uganda. The girls that we sponsor there are at a high risk for trafficking due to various factors. So part of our sponsorship program is providing their education. So if they are under 18, they're in traditional schooling. If they're over 18, we do have one lady in university. We've got a couple ladies in vocational programs, sewing programs, that sort of stuff. We have one young lady who went through a vocational program and now has her own sewing business, and she's doing amazing, and she's really thriving. So it's traditional education, it's vocation, providing them with safety, making sure that they are in safe homes. If they were not in a safe home before, that now they are in a safe home. And again, empowerment, that we are coaching them, encouraging them, speaking into their lives, making sure that they know that they are so much more than, if anyone has told them that they're worthless, that they're not, that they're so worthy of being loved, that they're so called to wonderful things in their life. And a couple years ago, we did a interview with a bunch of the girls there when we were working on our curriculum. You might have seen that before, the 6-8 Freedom Project curriculum, educating children and teens about human trafficking. And we got to ask the girls, what do you dream of becoming? What do you want to do when you grow up? And that was my favorite part, was just listening to the stories of these girls over and over say, I want to be a teacher. I want to be a nurse. I want to be a doctor. And that they have that opportunity now, whereas before they really didn't. And most of these girls were at a very high risk of being forced into early childhood marriage. That's the #1 exploitation factor in that area. But there is also trafficking that happens into Kampala and into the Gulf Coast as well. So right now we have 37 girls that we're supporting in 2024 as part of the program. All these girls have been identified as high risk for exploitation. I'll talk more about that in a moment, but a common exploitation risk in Kasese is forced early child marriage. We're talking 13, 14 is fairly common, certainly by 15. Or trafficked into Kampala, which is the main city, or the Gulf Coast region. And that's something that we heard about when we were there, is traffickers come in with lies of employment, of good jobs, of opportunities in the big city, or in like Dubai and cities like that, wealthy areas. They'll come into rural cities like Kasese. We heard of one story who actually went through all the proper legal channels of going to city officials to get permission to post these jobs in Kasese, and they got a whole group of women to go to the Gulf. And then once they got there, they took away their passports and they were stuck there. And so that's very common in these areas of when there's no opportunity for bettering your life, if there's no opportunity for education or a job, and your only opportunity is to get married at a very young age, then a lot of people fall victim to the lives of traffickers. So keeping them in school is a huge, huge prevention. High risk factors that we see the most often are single parents or no parents, orphan children, parents who were sex workers. I think we have 3 or 4 girls in our program right now who their mothers were forced into the sex trade themselves to survive. And so that puts their children at a very high risk of doing the same thing. Low income, no income households, abusive parents, and refugees from the Congo. Kasese is very close to the border of the Congo, and so Kasese gets a lot of refugees coming over from the Congo. And last year we started sponsoring a young girl who came over, and her brother got separated from their parents as they were fleeing the Congo as part of a group that was, fleeing the Congo, and they got separated, and they ended up in Kasese with no way of contacting their family or finding their family. And so they ended up being placed in a family at the church, and Joy started sponsoring the young girl immediately so that she could get into school at the very least. So a lot of situations of very high risk. Vulnerability also due to natural disasters or extreme poverty. We've seen that before in that area with floods that happened a few years ago that put a lot of girls in high risk. And then of course, extreme poverty, like I've mentioned before. Yep. All right, so that was our first big program that we're focusing on this year is Uganda, and our second one is in Nepal. And this program covers our pillars of freedom, healing, and empowerment. And hopefully you get the Joy International updates and got to read about this a couple weeks ago. We sent some information about it, but Joy International is now fully sponsoring a safe home in Kathmandu, Nepal, and we're very excited about it. It's called Mukti Home. And Mukti stands for free or liberated in Nepali. And so I'm going to share more about the Joy International Mukti Home. So a little bit about it. It is a safe home for minor survivors of trafficking in Kathmandu. Joy staff, I actually was introduced to the founder of Joy of the Mukti Home in 2021 through other partners of ours from Cambodia, Agape International Missions, if you've heard of them, AIM. They got us in contact with them, and we started sending training teams to help train their staff to prepare to open up the safe home. So that's the first thing that we did with them is we sent over some training teams to help with trauma-informed care training and staff training, so that they would, as they were in the preparation process for opening up the safe home. And then in 2022, they were able to open. Sadly, though, last year, they were informed by their funding partner here in the US. So there was a funding partner who made it all possible financially, and the team in Nepal ran the home, basically is how it worked. And that funding partner here in the US last year told them that all funds were going to stop in December of last year, which was horrible and heartbreaking for all of us. Dr. Jeff has gotten to go there twice. I've been able to go. And the quality at Mukti Home was just so evident that we knew in our hearts that we couldn't allow this to happen, because the need for safe homes in Nepal is great. There's not enough safe homes at all. The ones that are there are government run, extremely overcrowded. A lot of times the girls don't receive good care at all. There is a girl living at Mukti Home right now who is in one of those government facilities before, and she tried to run away many times because the care was so bad at the government facilities. And so when Dr. Jeff and myself and the rest of the team heard that the home was going to have to close because they no longer had funding, we took it to the board and our staff, and we had discussions about it, and we decided that we wanted to step in. And it's a leap of faith for us for sure, but it's absolutely worth it because this home is providing excellent, excellent care to these girls, and they are so deserving of it. So some more quick facts about Mukti Home. It provides safe housing, remedial education, counseling, job training, family support, medical care, legal representation, security, and lots of love. They have 30 survivors, and as of this month, the age range is from 8 years old to 18 years old, and that is all sex trafficking survivors. And we just got some news the other day, super exciting. The National Human Rights Commission of Nepal has made Mukti Home their primary referral home for all sex trafficking cases in Nepal. So that is really awesome. They came in and toured the facility, and they saw how the quality of care that was being provided. And so for all sex trafficking cases in Nepal, if there's room at Mukti Home, then the National Human Rights Commission is recommending any cases that they go to Mukti Home, which is very, very exciting for us, and just reiterates to us the quality of care that is being provided there. So it also means that we're going to need another safe home soon, because if we're the primary referral agency, we know we're going to get lots of referrals, and Mukti Home's going to be full a lot. And so we're already starting to dream and pray about a transition facility to help ease some of the burden of a full facility. The other thing that I love about Mukti Home is the ratio from staff to survivors, and it's about a 1-to-1 ratio, which some people might say that sounds crazy, but a lot of these girls are coming from extreme trauma backgrounds. There's a lot of mental health difficulties, a lot of physical health difficulties that comes with that, depression, anxiety, all the things that come with it. And so there needs to be a high level of staff to survivors to handle that in a healthy way. So that includes the security team, legal team, social workers, house moms, counselors, educators, but it is really a wraparound care offered at Mukti Home from every angle. There's a wraparound. Each one of the survivors are getting everything that they need, and so it's a 1-to-1 ratio of staff to survivors. So we're very, very excited. And this is our other large program that we're going to be talking about is the survivors who are now in Joy International's Mukti Home and free because of being there. I did want to just share a little bit. There is an investigation and rescue team that is housed underneath Mukti Home. Joy International is not covering the salaries of the team. They are not our team, but because of Mukti Home being there and being able to operate, the investigation and rescue team is able to operate as well. And so how it works is they are actually underneath from a manager perspective, they are underneath the leader of Mukti Home. And so they don't go do an investigation or a rescue without being in collaboration with the social workers and the management inside of Mukti Home. They work together. And so whenever there is a rescue or an operation, Mukti Home staff are already involved. They already know about the case. The social workers go with the rescue investigation team to the rescue to pick up the girl and bring her back. So it's a partnership that works hand in hand, but it is not Joy International's investigation and rescue team. And so we just need to be careful with the language that we use, that Joy International is not rescuing any of these girls at Mukti Home, but we're providing the safe facility for them to be rescued into. So if we were not doing that, then no rescues would be happening. If there was no home, there would be no rescue and no place for them to go to. So we're making it possible, but in the language that we use and when we're speaking about it, it's important for us not to say Joy International rescued this many girls. So we appreciate your help with that. But we can say, because of Joy International's Mukti Home, 3 girls are now safe, or 3 new girls are now safe in Joy International's Mukti Home, and we're celebrating 2 new arrivals at Joy International's Mukti Home. So things like that are okay to say, but we want to stay away from saying Joy rescued in Nepal. Does that make sense? Hopefully. Thanks.
And Alyssa, we do, oh, you might have this on here, but we have provided a training to the teams to the investigative and rescue team in Nepal, correct?
Yes, we have done training, and yes, this is part of where we're heading. But yeah.
Awesome. Sorry.
No worries. No worries. So those are our 2 main programs, and those are the ones that we want everyone to be talking about when you're talking about Joy, is you're talking about prevention program in Uganda, and you're talking about safe housing for survivors in Nepal. And if you only have 30 seconds to tell someone about Joy International, those are the 2 big things that we want to be focusing on is, yeah, they have a prevention program in Uganda, and they have a safe home in Nepal. And those are 2 really quick, easy points that we can be sharing with people when we're talking about Joy International. If you have more time, these are some of the additional programs that we are doing, just so you know. And if you want to share about them, that's great. And also just for your awareness, these are our additional programs that we're also working on. So the first one is the Freedom Collective. So the Freedom Collective is an online support network for international leaders working in anti-trafficking efforts. This looks like Zoom calls twice a month with executive leadership for safe homes, prevention programs, and aftercare shelters, any sort of NGO that's working internationally in anti-trafficking efforts. We have a small cohort that meets online twice a month. We pray for each other. We offer community support. We go through books together. We provide education on different topics for personal growth as well as organizational growth, and then training and resources. We bring in individuals who might speak on different topics just to help these leaders grow. So some of these are national leaders. They're living and working in the countries that they came from, and some of them are expats. They are Americans who are living on the field full time. But I've been blessed to lead this group, and the community is absolutely my favorite part, because when you are working in anti-trafficking, it can be very overwhelming. It can feel very isolating. It can be very discouraging, and especially for a lot of the leaders who have left their homes and gone to be missionaries, it can be a lot. And so it is wonderful to be able to get online and talk to other people who have experienced the same things as you, who are going through the same things as you, have heard the same stories that you've heard, who understand the pressure and the joy of being in these positions. And so it's a real blessing. And this is one of my favorite things that I get to do, is to meet with these leaders and pray with them, encourage them, let them know that we're here for them, let them know that there's a community that they can reach out to for support. Number 2, missions and trainings in Belize. So we've kind of focused our training trips down to Belize. We are leading a missions trip there in May. And when we go with the missions trips and service trips, we're really there to help support ongoing work that's already happening through partners there in Belize, who are either working in prevention programs or aftercare programs. Most of it is prevention programs with kids, and some of it is aftercare programs as well. So our service and missions teams go to help support what is already happening, already taking place, and helping the missions and the visions of different programs and partners down in Belize. And then we have training teams that we have sent to provide trauma-informed care training, staff care training, and retreats in Belize. And we're going to get to do the same thing again in August. So these training trips are for the staff of all of these different partner homes that we work with. We able to go spend a couple days, bring training to them in different relevant fields that they might want to get information on. Most of it is dealing with trauma, healing from trauma, and how to support others in trauma. And then we also really, really focus on the care of the staff. So we talk about vicarious trauma and secondary trauma, and how the staff can care for themselves and protect themselves and avoid burnout. And how they need to have healthy relationships and patterns in their lives so that they can stay healthy, so that they can stay working long-term in these different areas. Because if the staff are not healthy, they are going to burn out, they're going to leave, and then the people in their care, their clients, are not going to receive good care. So we believe in pouring into the staff so that they can pour into the people that they're serving. And that's what's able to happen on the training teams. So the missions and service teams are more focused on the kids, and the training teams are more focused on the staff and the caregivers. Third, education and awareness in the U.S. So Joy International staff, we travel. You've probably seen Dr. Jeff speak somewhere before. Travel to schools, churches, community centers, and other groups to talk about what human trafficking is, how to protect vulnerable youth, and what Joy International is doing to fight it. This also includes the 6-8 Freedom Project, which is our education curriculum that is online, which is totally free. And you can share about that with any school-aged children that you know. They can visit our website to find out more information about that. And then recently, Dr. Jeff has really been focusing his education opportunities on the issue of sextortion and how that is essentially human trafficking out of your own home. So trafficking, there's 3 key words that we use when we're talking about trafficking to determine if something is human trafficking. And those 3 words are force, fraud, or coercion. So if there is force, fraud, or coercion involved in getting someone to share a sexually explicit photo, getting them to do some sort of sexual act of any form, that is human trafficking. And so sextortion falls underneath that. And sadly, it is growing to epidemic levels in the US, where kids are being forced and pressured into sending sexually explicit information and then being extorted further to send cash so that those photos are not published or released. And so that's a big issue that we're seeing. And so we've been focusing education in this area as well. But general human trafficking awareness and education. And then, yeah, that's another area. And then finally, our partnership with the Acervo Project. You may have heard Dr. Jeff mention the Acervo Project in speaking or on email. But we help fund training programs in partnership with the Acervo Project to train anti-trafficking police teams internationally. So this does include the team in Nepal, the investigation rescue team in Nepal. They have benefited from training from the Acervo Project team. The Acervo Project team are the experts that Joy International doesn't currently have on staff, but these individuals are all former law enforcement, former State Department, former three-letter agencies across the US. So they're the ones with the tactical expertise and knowledge to perform investigations and rescue operations. And so we help fund and send those training teams internationally. In the US, there's also been opportunity to work with the Acervo project staff and coordinate with them, get their expertise and experience to help in the US locate victims who are here in the US. And so if there's anyone who comes to Joy International and says, you know, I think I have somebody who may be trafficked, we work with the Acervo project and connect that person to the Acervo project, because again, they're the ones with the technical experience in this area, because Joy International doesn't have anyone like that currently on staff. So we rely on our partnership with the Acervo project, and they are amazing partners and do really, really good work. So once again, to wrap it up, our primary programs are the sponsorship program in Uganda to prevent trafficking, and then the Safe Home in Nepal that provides freedom, healing, and empowerment. Additional programs are education and awareness in the US, partnering with the Acervo project on training and funding investigations, missions and training teams in Belize, and finally the Freedom Collective. So that is all I have for you. That's an overview of our programs. Does anyone have any questions?
I have one.
Yes.
You mentioned the little boy and girl that came from the Congo. The little girl is being helped. What happened to the little boy?
Little boy is being helped by the church.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
he's still with his sister and everything.
okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
I thought that was great, Alyssa.
Thank you. Any other questions anyone might have? All right, well, my email address is super easy. It's alyssa@joy.org. If anyone has any questions that they have come up later on in the middle of the night, feel free to email me and let me know. I did want to just kind of throw out there, we are planning an impact trip tour to Nepal later on in the fall, in October. And so that's going to give supporters an opportunity to see the Mukti home firsthand. So we're in the middle of planning that and preparing for that. So if that's something that interests you, let me know. And again, it's alyssa@joy.org if you want to email me about that.
Thank you, Alyssa.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Alyssa. Well done. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Alyssa.
I think I'm going to jump off because my 4-month-old is crying up there. So,
It's way past bedtime in your neck of the
Yeah.
woods. Go right ahead.
all right. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, one of our purposes of getting together is not just to inform you, but